Tonight's Coaches Show with Penn-Trafford coach John Ruane is presented by the Ground Round near the Westmoreland Mall in Greensburg. Whether it's specialty burgers and sandwiches, one-of-a-kind fajitas, or one of their homemade dinners, we've got what you like at the Ground Round.
Back here on the Westmoreland Sports Network pregame show, it is time for our first coach's interview, an interview coming up with Norwin head coach Dave Brzezinski, and also we have our player spotlights on the way, an interview coming up with Penn-Trafford running back Devin Austin as well. But it is time for our first coach's interview, brought to you by the Ground Round in Greensburg, and it is with Penn-Trafford head coach John Ruane. And first of all, Coach, I have to congratulate you. You guys win the Foothills Conference Championship with a victory last week against Plum. Before we talk about the game, congratulations. I know it's not your end goal, but certainly a goal that you guys wanted to accomplish along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, that is certainly a big goal, and we have not won one since 2011, so that was definitely goal number one of the season, was to win the conference and to put ourselves in a good playoff positioning. So, yeah, we're very happy about it, but ultimately, like you said, it's not the ultimate goal at the end of the season, but we'll take what we have at this point, and we're excited.
Your hardest-fought victory of the season in terms of score, 17-10 win last week against Plum. Just your overall thoughts about the game, Coach. They played you tough, a pretty scrappy team, which you expected going in, I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they've lost to North Hills by 3. They lost Altoona by 3. They lost to McKeesport. They were beating them at halftime, so we knew that they were probably better than a 4-3 team. I mean, they're a couple snaps away from being 6-1, 7-1, so we did not anticipate being able to come in there and walk all over them, and they certainly proved that. They're very physical, and we knew that coming in. They did a really good job shutting down the pass. They covered very well. It's the first team that really locked us down a little bit. So we kind of got out of our pass game, got a little bit too conservative. I blame myself for that, but credit them. They did well. They made some big plays on defense, and held us in check for the most part of the night.
Yeah, you mentioned offensively you guys were held in check, certainly a lot more than you've been throughout the year. Anything that you worked on specifically this week in practice leading up to tonight against Norwin to kind of correct some issues you may have had last week?
Yeah, I mean, we just sustaining blocks. Our first steps were bad on a couple plays, and that's something we really have to correct, because if we get they cross our face, then our run game's not going to be very efficient. So we worked hard on that all week. But like I said, I take blame for being a little bit too conservative, and I think that's going to change this week. We're going to go back to what we've done the first 7 weeks of the season and try to dictate our own style rather than a team dictate us.
Let's talk about Devin Austin, 31 carries for over 200 yards. His biggest output, I believe, since he's been a Penn-Trafford Warrior. It's amazing to see his progression, Coach, from kind of maybe a scat back as a sophomore, but the last 2 years you've been able to run him between the tackles. He's been able to get outside for you, and obviously you can give him the ball 31 times and try to drain the clock and get a victory like you did the other night.
Yeah, I mean, credit Devin. He's certainly one of the most complete running backs we've ever coached. What goes unnoticed by most people is his pass protection. I mean, he's as good as it gets with pass protection. He catches a lot of balls out of the backfield this year. He's having a huge season. He's actually our number 2 receiver right now. But obviously his forte is running the football, and his vision Friday night was the difference in the game, I thought. A lot of plays we pressed to the play side, and he cut it back for chunks and chunks and chunks. So, he's dynamic. It's obvious he's as far as he goes, we go. And, we're really proud of him, and he's a tremendous competitor, and that's the biggest thing about him. When the game was on the line, we said we needed to kill the last 5 minutes of this game. He said, give me the ball, and we did.
We talked a lot on our pregame show chats, along with Dave Floyd as well, talking to you this year, about how important it's been to get up on teams early and be able to get guys out of the games and things like that. How important was it, now you look back at it, being able to get up on some teams early this year and then be able to run Devin Austin more than 30 times this late in the season? I'm sure that played a little bit of a part into it, keeping guys a little bit fresh.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we don't want to run him 30 times, but this game dictated that, so we did. We don't want to really do that. We probably should have run Jonah a little bit more than we did. But, Devin was feeling it, and we were very comfortable with the way he was running. He wasn't taking a lot of shots. But, at the same time, we do like the games where we get a lead and we can get some guys out. But, that's not really playoff football. And I thought Friday was a good example of a playoff type of football game where we have to play 4 quarters. It's going to be tight. Big mistake's going to kill you. And we didn't make that big mistake at any point in the game. We played field position. Our punting game was pretty solid. David Benson did a nice job. Our coverage was pretty good. And, our defense won the game for us. So, that's a playoff type of football game. I'm not saying I totally embrace it, but it was one. So, we're happy we got that experience. And we had to play 4 quarters, and I thought we did a nice job responding to it.
Yeah, one final thing about the running game, Coach. I mean, you mentioned it's playoff football, and it has to be nice that you guys are so strong in the passing game and the running game, and your offensive line has been doing it all year long, where you can rely on the running game if the passing game isn't doing what you kind of need it to do. And when the weather gets colder like it is now, although tonight's supposed to be decent, but you get into the playoffs, the weather gets colder, you got to be able to run the football, as the old cliche goes. So I'm sure you can imagine, I can imagine you'd be happy with the fact that both facets are usually going well, but if the passing game isn't, you can rely on your offensive line and Devin and some others.
Yeah, that's been the story of any team that's successful in the playoffs, for sure. I mean, you look at the last, I don't know how many teams that have won the championship. Every one of them has run the ball predominantly. And I think we've done that this year as well. We haven't thrown too many pass attempts per game. We've certainly run the ball a lot and run a lot of play action off of it, and that's been our big plays. And that's playoff type of football. We're not going to get away from the pass game, but we're going to use it to complement our run game with play action and things like that. So, we're certainly happy that we can do it. We don't want either one to falter, pass or run, but in a game like that, we needed to rely more on the run, and we did.
Before I talk to you about the Knights, Coach, I want to ask you what has maybe been something that you have been most impressed with your team coming into, or I shouldn't say coming into this season, but coming into tonight. Maybe something that you or guys are doing better than you thought you were going to do this year. Is there any one thing that kind of sticks out and says, wow, we're a lot better in that area than I thought we'd be, or just in general, something that really has impressed you the most about this year's Warriors?
It sounds like a cliche, but maturity for sure. Our practices are fantastic. They're efficient. Our starters obviously practice well. Our scout team has been tremendous getting us prepared for every single Friday night. Our leadership has been good, and the coaches don't have to complain to people because the seniors are taking care of business. They're setting an example for the young guys. And then they take care of business on Fridays. Last year we were in some games they're closer than we probably should have been in. And this year, we've handled our business in those type of games. And I think that's a sign of maturity. I think that's a sign of being business-like and efficient. And, credit our senior leadership. They've been phenomenal with that department. So I would say that's my most impressive thing about this team is our senior leadership and the maturity they bring to the table.
Norwin Knights come into town here tonight, and again, before we talk about Norwin, I'm sure I'm going to be asking Coach Brzeski the same thing, but they finally now, after 2 years, move it back to when the game should be played in the last game of the year. Has to make you and I'm sure the team happy, and I'm sure the other team that's coming in here tonight in Norwin. You guys all want to play last week of the season, don't you? Yeah,
I think the fans like it too. That's the biggest thing. The student sections are both great. If you ever go to Norwin, it's a loud, rowdy atmosphere, and like our place. And I'm sure it'll be like that Friday now that, they've certainly picked up their game this year, and they're a playoff football team, and they're playing great. It should be very exciting, and that's what it should be. Week 9, you get the Penn Hills, Woodland Hills, you get the NA, North Hills. This is our big rival, and this is where we want to be playing them.
The Knights come into town, and some people from the outside might say, well, this game doesn't mean anything for Penn-Trafford. You've already clinched the Foothills. You've already clinched the number 1 seed. But I know talking with you a number of times this year, playoff seeding, overall record, that means something. And, of course, you'd like to finish the regular season undefeated. And, again, it's your rival, the Norwin Knights. So it is an important game, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this is our seniors' last regular season game of their career, number 1, first and foremost. It's their big chance to play one more game, that on a Friday night at home, and I guess we'll be here next week too. But it's significant for many reasons. It is Norwin. It's a big deal to play Norwin. It's a big deal to get up for your rival. But certainly the playoff seedings are a major factor tonight. We don't want to be caught losing number 1, number 2 in a tight contest where the seeding committee looks at us and says, this team maybe isn't that good, and we get, bumped down a little bit. So we're treated. This is a playoff game in our minds. We're playing a playoff football team that's doing very well. We have to come out and perform.
What has impressed you so much about Norwin, seeing them on film under new coach Dave Brzeski?
They're excited. I mean, these guys get after it. They shut out the first 3 opponents this season. They've been playing sound defense. They've been physical. Those guys run to the football. They play excited, and you can tell he's brought a lot of energy to the program. Dave's a great guy. I got to know him over the last few years. I know a lot of guys on their staff, and they're good coaches, and they bring a lot of positive energy, and you can tell they're playing like that now. So it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, that's a good program, good athletics, and they're showing it this season.
Talk about some of your keys to victory, Coach. I do want to ask you about the seniors on senior night, but let's talk about that first. What do you guys have to do to come away with a win and finish the season, regular season, undefeated?
Well, we can't. Every time we play them, they have a couple plays they really like, and they seem to hit some soft spots in our defense, and we have to take those away for sure. We have to maintain ball control. We can't turn it over, definitely. And we have to do what we do. We have to run the ball. We have to take our shots in the play-action game and hit them. We can't just, throw it and come up with nothing. So we're going to get our pass game back on track this week, we hope. But certainly when it comes down to it, we got to run the ball, control the clock, and stop them from doing the same.
Senior night, you mentioned how impressed you've been with the senior leadership on this year's team. Just kind of give us another thought or two on the seniors and what they've meant to the program, them playing their, I shouldn't say final home game, because as you said, you guys have a home playoff game too, but final home regular season game where they can be honored here tonight. It's
a remarkable group, and, we start our season in January, and, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't know unless you're a part of this locker room. And, these guys from day one have had an incredible attitude and work ethic, and they've been businesslike, and they understand what this is all about. This is high school football. Some of them want to move on and play at the next level. Some of them don't, but they all want to play for each other at this point. And they've really shown the kids in this program what this is all about. And I can't thank them enough. They are a phenomenal group of kids. They're fun to be around. We enjoy coming here every single day. They have the same sense of humor as us as a coaching staff, which is tough to accomplish. So maybe they're a little bit demented too. But no, they're just a fantastic group from top to bottom. There's no egos. There's no me guys. They're excited for whoever's being successful. They want each other to be successful. And it's a true team atmosphere, maybe the best I've ever been a part of, to be honest with you. Well, Coach, they certainly have taken the reins. We knew how much potential this team had coming into this season, and they've taken care of business. Good luck tonight against Norwin. Hey, our first video interview of the season, the last week of the year. Better late than never, right? You got it. No problem. Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it. That's head coach John Ruane of the Penn-Trafford Warriors. We'll take a very quick timeout. After this 30-second break, we'll be chatting with Devin Austin here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.